we're going to take a quick look at some things you can do to supplement spyware removal and to combat virus infections on local machines. I'm sure you guys all have your favorite tools. Some of you probably use Adaware. Some of us like Yahoo's free tools. Some of us like to use Spybot or Norton's tools. Some tools work in certain ways, and some tools are better than others. Some tools work in other ways. No tool is perfect. No tool finds everything and cures everything and solves all the problems. I have not yet found a best tool, but this would supplement that. So one of the first things we'll look at that viruses may do to your system is infect the configuration files. And one of the ones that is very vulnerable would be the host file. We're going to go to System32, inside of Windows drivers, etc. We're going to open your host file, and we want to look at Notepad. It's plain text in Notepad. This is a loopback. Notice how it maps. Let me go here, and I'll use the ping command. And that's where localhost comes from. In this case, my host name, as you can see, is cGermanyXP, but 127001, the loopback, maps out to localhost. Clear the screen there. DNS resolution or name resolution goes in this order. First of all, your system will look in what's called the local resolver cache. So this is I'm going to use the command ipconfig display DNS. It will display my local resolver cache. And this will show you all, it just contains within it or maps all of the A records where it's resolved a host name to an IP address. Then, if it doesn't find anything there, it'll go and check the host file. And then if it doesn't find that name entry there, then it'll actually go out and query a DNS server to do an iterative or recursive query on that DNS server. So one of the things that your spyware, your viruses will do is they'll infect this file. And so by default, let me load up Yahoo here, and I'll show you what happens. Alright, this is my front page. I know Google's a better search engine, but I just kind of like Yahoo for the flavor or something. I don't know. I like my coffee without sugar and extra cream. How do you like your coffee? But in this case, that's our default web page. Now, if I were to ping Yahoo, actually, let me flush my resolver cache and I'll show you the entry. So I'll flush my resolver cache and I'll display my resolver. Okay, so now there are no entries in my resolver cache. I'm going to do this. I'm going to ping www.yahoo.com. It'll query the DNS server the first time. Now it stores it in its local resolver cache. And the IP address is 69.147.114.210. And if I display the resolver cache, now you can see what's actually inside my resolver cache. It's got Yahoo's A record locked in there. So what your spyware will do a lot, though, they'll make use of this host file and they'll infect it. And let's come up with a naughty address. So how about really naughty stuff? And okay, really naughty stuff. Here's some really weird stuff. Reallyweird.stuff.com. And we don't actually want to go to a bad, evil, pornographic site, but we'll just pretend that this is a really evil, bad, pornographic site. And it may be, I don't know, but let's not go there. Okay, so I've got the domain name. Now I'm going to use my DNS server to query, try to go out and find a top-level DNS server from IANA and resolve the IP address. I want to find the IP address for reallyweird.stuff.com. So ping and put the domain name in there. So now I know that the IP address is 207.217.125.50. I'm going to mark it, and I'm going to go over here. And so say you get some evil, yucky spyware virus. One of the things it'll do is it can infect your INI files and config files, but a lot of times it'll go to your host file when you get something that hijacks the browser. It'll take this IP address and it'll associate it with your home page. And it might associate other IP addresses with Google. So let's take we'll associate that with Google. And we'll even associate that with Microsoft. We'll associate all that with Microsoft. So all that could be saved in the host file. And we'll close our host file there. Unbeknownst to us, we've been infected with horrible, evil, yucky, disgusting spyware. Now let's check that out. If I were to, let me clear my resolver cache real quick, which would be done if you rebooted your machine, but ipconfig, ne. Alright, I'm going to clear my resolver cache, and I want to display it. Now notice that I have these entries preloaded, but they're all the wrong addresses. And that's what that evil spyware has done to our system. So what happens if I tried to reach out and touch somebody? Let's say I wanted to go to Microsoft.com. Well, instead of going, I mean, it looks like I'm getting echo replies, but it's not Microsoft.com. It's that bogus entry in my host file. So what happens? I'm still mapped to go to Yahoo.com. You know, I load up my web browser, and look, all of a sudden, what's going on? Yahoo's gone. Let me go to Google. What's going on? Oh no, oh no. Heaven forbid. Can't reach Yahoo, can't reach Google. Maybe I can go to Microsoft and get some advice from TechNet. Can't go anywhere. But what if I go to this website? HastaLaVista.com. Now see, there's no bogus host file entry, so I can go to this website. So a telltale sign of this infection, or this type of exploit against your system, would be that you can go to some websites, but you can't go to others, or that your browser seems to be continuously hijacked to one web page or another. Way to fix it? Again, I would check the host file of a system that you suspect is infected. See if you don't find some bogus entries there. If you do, just get rid of them. You need the local host, but that's it. This is what a normal host file should look like. No other entries there. So you would have to save it in the host file. Now remember, it's not enough to just do that. Once you've saved the host file, you also have to ipconfig and then flush your DNS cache. And I would also recommend using this command, arp, and you want to delete your arp cache. And once you've done that, then you should be fine. So now we'll ping www.yahoo.com. And behold, lo and behold, there it is. 69.147.114.210. It works again. And we will close this and go back. And behold, there's Yahoo. It's back again. And go to Google. Behold. Oh, well, I misspelled it. Brings up the topic of phishing, doesn't it? Using commonly misspelled domain names or websites to do things. But now Google's back. There's our good friend Google. And now even our Microsoft is back. We'll affectionately call Microsoft Big Daddy. Yay! So that's one potential problem and solution or resolution to an infected system. Now, in addition to your host file, your LM host file, this is LM host SAM, so we're safe. It's not actually being employed. But sometimes people, unlike the host file, which maps an IP address, a host name to an IP address, an LM host file maps a NetBIOS name to an IP address. And this is not being used. It's got the .sam extension, but were you to remove that, then it would be being used. And you could also fill this up with bogus entries. And that would be another example of an infected system. Another common problem you'll encounter are things that evil viruses and vicious spyware will do is have programs start automatically. And there are several ways that they can do this and several ways that you can combat it. Of course, first of all, you might always check the startup folder if something were added there. But most programs are not that open about what they do in terms of spyware and viruses. They're going to try to hide things a little bit in a little bit more sophisticated fashion. There's a quick, nice program you can use called msconfig that'll show you all of your startup applications. And in this case, I have Xentray because I'm using Zen Desktop with Novell. Here's VMware for my virtual machine tools. and a couple other services, but these are all of the things that are set up to start. And there's just a whole slew of really cool tools in msconfig. It centralizes everything, my boot INI file, if I want to modify boot entries, my Windows INI file, system INI, a very powerful and useful tool. So I would look here, if I were trying to clean, spyware off of my system, or set my system up so that I could at least boot. A lot of times what spyware will do is it creates sort of a terminate and stay resident or TSR configuration where a program will run, you can stop it, but it'll stay running in memory. And no matter what you do, it just keeps coming back and infecting the system or eating up resources, doing horrible bad things. So I could disable all of this. That would be the first thing I might try. And then I would click OK, and then I would restart my system. In this case, I'm not going to because we're going to look at the registry, but that would disable all of the startup programs. Now, the other thing I would do, that spyware loves to do this, there's a couple of keys that you want to familiarize yourself with. The first thing we'll do is go to HQ Local Machine Software. Let's go to Microsoft, and let's go to Windows, and let's go to Current Version. One of the favorite keys of spyware. Look at all of these keys here, run once, and run once X. But if I wanted a program to start automatically, this is where I would put it. And if you find entries here that don't belong here, now some entries here might be legitimate, but if you find something here and you just know that that doesn't belong there, that key value, you might want to click on it and remove it. So we don't have anything here, but what we're going to do is actually create, we'll kind of create some spyware. We'll create a mock virus. It won't do anything bad, but just for demonstration purposes, we'll have it load a program. So we're going to leave the registry editor open right there. We're just going to make a very simple VB script. I'm going to launch Notepad, and it's just a very simple command message box. I am evil spyware. I hate you. And maybe that's a little stronger. How about I am evil spyware. Come see my naughty website. That'll be our message there. Okay, I'm going to save it. And what I want to do, I'm going to hide it. Often spyware will hide files. It'll make it look like a system file somewhere, and it'll hide it somewhere. Let's go into System32, and we were already in here in drivers talking about our host file. Let's see, we'll go to drivers, and we'll go to Etsy, and host.vbs looks innocent enough, almost looks like a system file. Host.vbs. Okay, and then what I want to do is quickly just get the path to that, so I'm just going to use my address bar. It's one of the reasons I like to leave the address bar set up and enabled, but I'm going to go to Windows, and System32, and drivers, and Etsy. I'm just going to copy and paste that, and I got to remember it's called host.vbs, and that makes it executable. In my registry editor, I'm going to go ahead and make a key, and I'll make a new string value in this case. And let's see, let's try to make this innocent looking. We'll just call this system. Who would ever suspect that something called system was an evil, malicious, vicious piece of spyware? And then what I want to do is map it to this folder. So I pasted the path in here, and it would be, what do we call it? Host VBS. So now this string value is set up so that every time Windows boots, it's going to load this, and that would be in run once. And I could also put put that entry in 1. Matter of fact, let me go ahead. Let me do this. Pop it over here, and we'll put in a new string value, and we'll make it sound like it's important, like it belongs there, something innocent, just like our evil spyware would do. And VBS. So now it maps there. And this is our registry database. It tells Windows what to do. In this case, keys there, what to do when Windows is booting or loading. So let's test that out. We're going to restart the system. Booting, 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 rawhide. Whoopsh. Move them out. That's about all I can remember. Okay, let's log in. And we're just going to do local workstation only. I'm not going to log into my Novell server, but I'll go ahead and then here's our message. I am evil spyware. Come see my naughty website. That's typically what a piece of spyware would do, or a virus would do to your system. So, and this is just reminding me that I used msconfig to disable all my startup files. So again, what you want to do to clean that, HQ local machine, and again, we'll just review the path so you remember. But we start out HQ local machine, software, Microsoft, and Windows, current version, and run. And I can actually just delete this key. It doesn't belong here. I'll pull that key out, and boom, now when I restart my system, I won't get that nasty spyware message telling me to come see a naughty website. We've been talking about spyware and some of the annoying things it might do to infect your system. Let's look at a couple of more registry hacks. We have two fun files today. One is Superman versing a Jedi. How annoying is that? And the other one is... Let's look at a couple of registry keys. Do you remember the first one? That that allowed you to set values to start things automatically. And let's go back and review that. That was HQ local machine. It was in software and Microsoft and Windows, current version, and run. Okay. And what we would do, first thing we'll do is let's add a new string value. So a key, and again we'll make it something fairly innocent, system. And we want to path it out to this right here. And let's rename this to something something innocent looking. There. Now that looks pretty innocent looking there. And let's put it someplace tucked away in the file system. We're going to go to Windows, and how about System32, let's go to System this time. And close that. Now in Registry, what we want to do is give this a key value of that location and what we called the file. So System32 DLL FLV. And let's just check, make sure that's the path of our file. Windows System32 DLL FLV. And it's not case sensitive, but so there's our startup registry. The other thing we want to do, let's take this, Superman versus Jedi, and we'll throw that into System32. How about that? And we'll throw it into, the spool folder. And what we want to do is, just like group policy can lock down a desktop, so can registry hacks and settings. There's tons of them, but spyware viruses will make use of this a lot of times. The first thing we want to do is go to HKey current user, and under HKey current user, let's go to software and Microsoft and Windows. And then in Windows, we want to go to current version. And what we're interested in is this section here called policies. And the first thing we want to do is, if there's not an active desktop policy, then we want to create one. So we need to create a key this time. And under policies, we're going to create a key. and we will call it active desktop. And now inside of active desktop, we need to add some variables, and in this case, there'll be dword values. So what we want to do now is give them very specific names. So no adding components. Now by default it's false. Remember that 0 is false and 1 is true. What you want to do is set that to be true. And that's okay, it's a hex value, so it'll just add it onto the end there. But no adding components we want to add. We're going to add another dword value. And in this case it'll be called no deleting components. Or no deleting components, I'm sorry. And again, we want to set that from false to true. And we're going to go over here, and I'm going to make a new dword value. And this one we want to call no editing components. And again, I'm going to set that to true. And I'm going to add a fourth one. And we want to go new, and we want to go dword value. And this is going to be no closing components. And I'm going to set that to true. And again, so all of these have been set to true. Now, the next thing we want to do is create, if you don't have an Explorer policy, then create one. If you do, in this case, we already have an Explorer key. But I want to go ahead and add a couple of dword values here. So I want to add force active desktop on, and I want to add no active desktop changes. So over here, I'm going to do new dword value. Force active desktop on, and I'm going to set that to be true. And again, I'm going to go over here and add a new dword value, and it's going to be no active desktop changes. No active desktop changes, and again, that value is going to be 1. Okay. Now that would be under my Explorer key. Now in policies, I also need a system key. There's not one, so I need to make myself one. So I'm going to make a system key down here. When I make the system key, here's where I can actually specify my wallpaper. So here I'm going to make new, and this time I want to make a string value, and it's going to be wallpaper, and we will call it and here I want to set it, in this case, to the path of, and what was it called? Super Jedi. Make sure I get the name right. I think it was Super Jedi JPEG. Super Jedi JPEG. And that's the path to my wallpaper. And then I just want to create one more of wallpaper style. And I'm going to go and wallpaper style. You do okay, and wallpaper style there. And that's it. Let's go ahead and reboot. Before I do that, let me just check the path real quick. I'm going to go ahead and have them go down here, run. Okay. Now notice before I reboot here, even before I've rebooted, I don't have permission to change my wallpaper. And in this case, all of this has been grayed out. It's just like if you had group policy, and I had stopped it with group policy, but it's displaying here, but it won't really display here until I reboot. And then also when I reboot, that's when it'll play that Numa. So let's go ahead and reboot. We're going to restart here. And we'll see what happens. Nice little prank slash lesson about the Windows registry here. So, assuming we had a bad piece of spyware, something really annoying, or a virus, you can imagine a virus that ran around infecting every machine on your network so that it played Numa Numa when it booted up, and had Superman versus a Jedi locked down for wallpaper that couldn't be changed. Is that annoying enough? Or should we get more annoying? Okay. As they say, annoy but do not destroy. Let me go ahead and log in.